Hello, my name is Peter Sheldon and welcome to my screencast of my environment project for Creative Media Masters module. In the screencast I'll be going through an overview of my environment project and the research conducted during this design process, while finishing with an evaluation of this project. For the module I chose to create a 3D environment within Unreal Engine. This environment will be an Egyptian tomb that was located within a large cave. The tomb will consist of a sarcophagus and will have a range of golden Egyptian objects such as chests, vases, piles of coins, and so on. This environment will give me the chance to create some nice, high detailed assets and will be the first time creating an Egyptian style project. The reason why I chose to do this environment was to improve my skills in certain software such as ZBrush, Maya, Substance Painter, and Unreal Engine 4, and to improve my skills in lighting and environment design. Another reason why I chose to produce this environment was to design a high quality piece of work to be published on my online portfolio to increase my range of work as an environment artist. The planned outcomes will be a video fly-through exploring the environment, a range of high-resolution shots of the environment, and a few breakdown sheets showing off the main design aspects of my environment. This is the final outcome of the project with a completed video fly-through, high-resolution shots, and a number of breakdown sheets. The research part of the project was split into different sources and design areas, such as real life, films, artwork, and similar 3D environments, as well as other areas such as idea generation for layout, asset creation, and certain design elements such as lighting, atmosphere, and mood. During the beginning of the project, the research consisted of looking at a mixture of sources. Some examples including researching real-life tombs around the world to get an idea of the actual layout of an Egyptian tomb. In addition, was looking at asset reference for real-life objects such as vases, tables, and sarcophaguses. These images were used to model the assets scattered around my scene. As well as looking into real-life imagery, was looking into films. Because of my tomb idea, I felt I needed to make a unique type of Egyptian tomb, so I decided to look into the film series The Mummy. This was because of how they designed the tombs within their films, these being very over-exaggerated and unique. As part of the research gave me the idea for the layout of having a raised platform in the middle of a large cave. The final part of the research included looking at any similar environment completed in the past by fellow artists and collecting a number of artwork images to help me decide on what lighting and atmosphere I wanted my tomb environment to have. The development of my environment project used a range of software such as Maya, ZBrush, Photoshop, Substance Painter, Substance Designer, and Unreal Engine 4. The beginning of designing this environment involved creating the base cave the tomb would sit inside. This led to using ZBrush to sculpt the walls of the cave. After sculpting and baking down the cave, I imported it into Unreal with the rock material attached, which after checking the scale was accurate, I finalized the cave and was ready to start creating the tomb assets that will be placed inside. Later on, when creating the Egyptian assets, I started with creating the larger objects first, such as the large platform that will be set in the middle of the scene, the columns that will be scattered around the cave, and the smaller columns which would be attached to the corners of the platform. Each of the large assets followed a similar workflow to my cave. However, when it came to texturing, they were textured in Substance Painter, then imported into Unreal. When it came to creating the sarcophagus, I took a large amount of time to design this asset due to the fact it being the main element of my Egyptian tomb. This object was sculpted in ZBrush with the use of certain tools such as trim dynamic tool to create a rock style trim to the edges to give the effect of the sarcophagus being carved from stone. The sarcophagus was split into multiple pieces due to the size and to allow me to make the lid of the sarcophagus movable. While in the process of texturing the sarcophagus, I used multiple Egyptian carvings and converted them into normal maps to be placed on the sides of the sarcophagus. The design process of creating the smaller assets was to have a decaying, dusty theme. This led to certain assets being imported into ZBrush and having cracks sculpted into them, such as these vases I designed. The texturing part of the process consumed most amount of time. When I was creating these assets, due to the fact that the Egyptian style objects use many symbols and patterns, the creation of these symbols and patterns involved creating a large amount of alpha images from Egyptian symbols and patterns, with some being created from scratch in Photoshop. In addition to the creation of these patterns and symbols was to create the colors for these small assets. This led to looking through my research I conducted at the start of the project to see what colors real-life Egyptian objects used, which I discovered used a mixture of gold, blues, reds, and with some being purely made from pottery. After discovering what colors were commonly used, I applied similar colors to my assets, which gave them their Egyptian style I was aiming for. Also, most of my assets contained a gold texture. This was because of how I wanted my Egyptian tomb to be set as an extravagant tomb with golden objects scattered around. After finishing the smaller models for my environment, I moved on to creating the gold coin piles which are scattered around the tomb. When it came to modeling, I experimented with a number of different ways to make these, which led to using a technique of creating a small hill-like model with some small coins scattered around this. The reason why I did this was to save poly count and to help with optimization of my environment. The texturing process led to me creating a coin material within Photoshop to be placed on this model while having small coins to be separately textured. When I implemented them into the scene, the material setup for this model needed to have certain adjustable values in the material instance, such as specular, metallic, and a tiling value. Overall, this model turned out better than I expected, but if I was to return to this model, I would add some random jewels to give more contrast between colors. Along with designing these gold piles, I created a sand material within Substance Designer, which was not used in the final environment, but was created to be used as a vertex paint material for the main platform's floor. However, when it came to vertex paint, I decided to use a different sand material because I felt it fit the scene better with its colors and normal map. This material did have values I could adjust, such as the number of rocks within the sand. Even if this material was not used within this project, I'll be saving this material for future environment projects. The lighting for the tomb used mainly two types of lights, these being point and spotlights. These lights were to simulate certain elements of light, such as lighting coming from the braziers around the tomb, the sunlight coming down from the roof of the cave, and any bounce lights needed around the scene. The overall lighting used two different colours, one being the yellow to simulate the light coming from the fires, and the white light coming from a spotlight to simulate the sunlight. The reason why I used a spotlight for the sun was because of the cave was completely sealed, which would have blocked a directional light if placed in the scene. The bounce lights within the scene were mainly used to push the lights around the scene and help highlight smaller areas I wanted to show. I also used multiple point lights as ambient lights to brighten the cave room. These lights were only soft lights which pushed the light further out and illuminated the walls of the cave. Within my environment scene, I used a range of different particle effects. They spanned from custom light shafts to fire particle systems to a fog system. The custom light shaft was created from scratch, which from following a tutorial allowed me to use this light shaft to highlight the main element of my environment. This light shaft had a material setup which allowed me to adjust certain settings, such as the distance it fades in and out as the camera goes closer to the light shaft, and also the opacity of the light shaft to be adjusted to my liking. The fog system was used as a background element to create a small fog line on the cave floor. This, I think, improved the scene's atmosphere by a huge amount. Overall, I think the project has pushed my skills as an environment artist and has allowed me to design a unique environment with a theme I've never done before. The skills I've learnt throughout this project I will take into future projects and will help me achieve my career goal of becoming an environment artist. The stretch goals I had were unfortunately not achieved, such as creating an entrance area to the tomb. However, I feel like the environment still stands on its own without it. The environment itself I felt turned out very well, with it achieving most of my goals I planned, and I've enjoyed designing each element of this environment. If I was to return to this project, there would only be small changes to the environment, such as adjustments to some models and the creation of the entrance area to the tomb. My name is Peter Sheldon, and thank you for watching my screencast.